my friends, welcome back to your practice. Today's mini movement session will be focused on moving well in our hips and shoulders, maybe moving in some unfamiliar and non-habitual ways to support not losing these ranges as we age, or maybe as we do activities that are repetitive. So this could be a great warm-up for your favorite things to do outside, or your favorite activities, or maybe a moment to connect with your body. So I'm going to start by sitting up on a couple of blocks. You can see that I've stacked these on their low levels, so I have a nice wide foundation for my sitting bones. You could, if this isn't enough height, you could play with like an ottoman, a stool, a chair as well to support your back. And you could also take one block out and be on just one block. You'll see how it goes. So adjust as needed. I'm going to start in a wide squat, a primal squat with my sit bones on the props. So I'm gonna get into that. I'm gonna go feet a little wide, knees a little wide. And we can lean a little forwards here and see if you can bring your elbows on the inside of your knees and take your hands together like that. And you can explore here dropping your hands a little, and I'm getting a bit of a stretch in my wrist when I do that, even dropping them kind of below elbow line, and then bringing them up a little. Maybe this is an opportunity as you're doing this to let your breath be conscious. So bringing your awareness to your breath, and maybe you can make your breath a little smoother, a little softer, and a little longer, which can boost your parasympathetic activity. So might bring in a sense of calm. Okay, you can make that a little bit bigger if you want, and take your elbows towards each other. They might not touch, but you can touch them if they allow that. And then opening up, bringing your hands a little lower. Closing that up and opening that up. Okay, then I'm gonna sit a little more upright here. Place my left hand on my left knee, and I'm gonna try to stay upright and centered with my torso. Right hand on right knee, and roll the knee in till you hit that limit on your range there. Maybe a bit of discomfort at the end of that. Make sure you're feeling safe with it, and then back to center and roll it out. So I'm gonna kind of lean a little forwards in the roll out, but I'm gonna try to stay as upright as I can, and I can use my hand to guide these movements. You can see I'm on the outer edge of my foot here, and when I roll in, I'm really rolling to the inner edge. So you can keep going with that. Check out what's happening in your hip. Check out if there's a holding pattern in this hip. Our hips have a lot of stories to tell us. There's lots of adventures stored in our hips. History. You can roll in and out. I'm going to try to stay as upright as I can there. I'm going to come to center with that side. Check out if I feel any difference left to right, and then go left side into the inner edge of the foot and out. And now I have this opportunity to attend to any differences I notice on the two sides, becoming more conscious of what is happening as I move. Maybe bringing that slightly longer, smoother, longer breath into play. Where's the discomfort, the edge on this side? Do I feel a little bit of a warming up there? Back to center. I'm going to go back to my right side, but if it works for you, taking your left hand back of the palm against your side waist, so your fingers are kind of fanning out behind you, and then seeing if you can open that left leg and hook it on the inside, the outside of your left elbow, inside of the knee. And you can draw it in a little bit. You might feel some stretch sensations there on your outer shoulder. And then I'm going to keep going with that in and out movement with my right leg. So I feel like I'm warming up to this movement a little, especially that in movement, which is more challenging for my body, but noticing what's different for you here. Come back to center, release that left arm, and you can switch sides. Right hand back at the palm, back of the wrist, against your right side. Open your right knee a little bit and hook it on your outer elbow. And you can press it in just enough. You feel perhaps a bit of a stretch sensation there. We'll go in and out through that left side. And you don't have to do the shoulder part if it feels like it's a little too much going on. You can stay with the movement of your hip. I'm noticing just quite a bit more resistance on my left side. And that's okay. Sometimes my body is protecting for some reason or another. Okay, coming into the center, let that go. Now if you'd like to try, you can take one hand into that big internal rotation of the shoulder, so back of the wrist, back of the palm there, and see if you can get the other one in and sit like that. See whatever you're feeling there. If you like, you can kind of start to squeeze your knees in. Try to relax your shoulders as this is happening. You can tuck your chin and see how it feels to draw your elbows together. You might move your feet a little more parallel. A lot of sensation in this for me. Some of you might be able to touch your elbows together. Go for it if you can. And for some of you, doing this one arm at a time might be the best way to go. And then we can walk out of that, roll out through our shoulders. Now let's try to take our left hand, fingers point up. So two ways of doing this. You can use the webbing in between your index finger and thumb and cup your side waist. So as you can see, I'm leaning a little away from my left leg and then placing my elbow there and then trying to come more upright. Another way of doing this, a little more intense on your wrist, is aiming your fingers straight up towards your armpit and then taking your elbow to your knee and trying to stay upright. So you can release that. Let's try the other side. So either it's a cup, elbow to knee, and try to stay upright, or the fingers go right up towards your armpit and try to stay upright. Now, if you like, you can try both of those at the same time, either the cup or the fingers moving up. I'm getting a tremendous stretch on the underside of my wrist. Breath in, breath out. Releasing that out, shake it out. Okay, feet more parallel and forwards. Lean to your left. You might put your hand on the ground and take the top of your right foot to the floor. So you're in a half hero's shape. Okay, so here you might want to take one block out. And you can also lean back. So I'm leaning back, my fingers pointing out to left and right side. And I'm gonna lift my hips a little bit off of the prop, tuck my tailbone, and slowly lower my hips back down. So I'm feeling a bit of a stretch here in the front of my right groin, all the way through the quadricep. And I'm gonna take a couple of breaths into that. Some of you might feel like taking this, the second block out, coming down a little further, and maybe even lying down on your back. So that is an option. You could start to come down onto your forearms. And if you like, here, you can widen your knees a little bit. Your right knee can lift off the ground, and then close them in. So whichever position you are in, you can play with that. So widening your knees and squeezing your knees into the midline. Widening and squeezing. We'll do 3, 2, and 1. And then crawling yourself back up. You might be all the way down on your back there. I'm gonna hold on to the top of my right ankle, lean way left, and come back into that more parallel squat. So we'll do the other side. Lean right, top of the ankle to the ground. You might take out the blocks if you want. Hands to the floor, fingertips pointing left and right. Lift your pelvis, tuck your tailbone under a little bit, and then start to settle your hips back down. And I see here that my right hip is hiking up towards my right armpit a little bit, so I'm going to try to drop that hip so I can see that my hips are a little more level. You might crawl down onto your forearms. That's also giving you a little bit of shoulder stretch perhaps. It's okay if your knee pops up a little bit. Just checking in for that sense of safety for you in your knee joints, in your hip joints, in your low back. So wherever you are, maybe you're all the way down on your back, but you can open your knees and squeeze them into the midline. Open your knees, and I'm also getting a really big stretch on the top of my left foot here. Maybe you are too. So we'll go for 3, 2, and 1. So good. Okay, so if you're on your back, crawl your way back up. I'm just gonna put my block back underneath my hips, lean way right, hold to the top of your left ankle and slip your foot out. So now you are in that more parallel squat. All right, so we're gonna do that whole sequence one more time and see what happens. You might pop up onto 2 blocks, or I'm actually gonna try it in a squat where my seat is hovering and I'm in a malasana yoga squat, and see how it feels to do it there. So if you choose to do this and it's not working for you, go back to the height. You can try this for a couple of breaths, see how it works, go in and out of it. So I'm going to lean a little left and try to keep my torso as upright as possible and do that internal rotation and external rotation with my right knee. So moving in and moving out. I'm kind of leaning to the left here to give a bit more space in my right hip as I make these movements happen. All right, so we're going to switch sides then. I'm going to lean right, go with my left on the inner part of the foot, on the outer part of the foot, in and out. And again, for me, a lot more sensation on this side. I'm checking in with your differences on the 2 sides. Okay, back into the center there. Take a moment. You can take your hands together and squeeze your knees and hands towards each other. And here you might drop your hands a little bit and bring your elbows towards each other. And drop your hands so you're a bit more on the outer part of your foot perhaps. And elbows together, inner part of your foot. Left hand, can we take the back of the wrist, back of the palm there, and you can open up quite a bit to catch that. See how that feels, maybe draw the elbow in a little. Let's go a couple times in and out with our right hip. Switch sides. So lean right, catch the top of the wrist, maybe move it in a little bit, a couple times here, in and out. Back, and you might try both. Catching and then maybe squeezing your knees in and drawing your elbows a little closer in towards each other. Lots of sensation there. And then how would it feel to cup one outer rib, maybe the other, be a bit more upright there. Or turn your fingertips up towards your armpits. I'm leaning a little forwards to make that happen. Interesting. Release that out. Again, hands together and find that inner knee squeeze. Long squat here, so if you need breaks, that's understandable. All right, so let's sit down. And so you can take your feet a little more parallel, lean left and take your right foot into that half hero. So if you need blocks, go for that. Lean a little bit back. You can lift up, tuck your tail, lower your hips, maybe come down onto your forearms, squeeze in and release out. So you're very welcome in this to lie back, and if you're using blocks, you could actually Take your blocks behind you if you want that little bit of extra height. And you could go for 3, out and in, squeeze. 2, 1. And then crawl yourself back up there. Lean way left. Hold on to the front of your right ankle. Come into that seated squat. Let's lean right and take our left foot into that. You might need that height. Some of you might want no height behind you. And you can lift your hips, tuck your tailbone, and start to walk back onto your forearms. Some of you might want to lower down onto your back. And if there's a big old arch in your low back, you might want a bit of height behind you, especially if it is kind of crampy in your low back. And you can go for those out and in movements. Out with the knees and squeezing in. And notice what does it do when you squeeze in? Where do you feel that? For 3. For 2. And for 1. And you can crawl back out of that. Lean way right to hold the top of your left ankle. And release out. So now we're gonna open up our legs, open up the backs of our knees, wow. And get into a wide angle forward fold. You might lean back and just kind of drain out, jelly roll out through your legs. Or you might circle your pelvis. So you're kind of circling through that forward fold and back up. 5, if you're doing this. 4, and if you're really rounding your back in this, you can also take your hands on your hips and try doing it with more of a straight spine. 2, 1. And coming up there, we can draw our knees in. You can sit cross-legged. Maybe this is the beginning of a longer movement practice for you. Feel free to lie down on your back. If you like, close your eyes. Take a mindful moment. Opportunity to let your breath get a little softer, a little smoother, a little longer. And check out how you're feeling through your hips and your legs. Our hips are very powerful mobilizers, so if our nervous system is saying, like, let's get out of here, let's get going, there's stress, there is urgency, there's a rush in our system, then our hips are like, okay, let's do this. So take a moment to notice the after effect of bringing some attention into this area. Maybe supporting yourself to feel safe, supporting yourself to slow down. I so hope this is useful for you. Thank you for being here today. Shanti, peace.